my name is Jacqui Walker, and I didn't really decide to write a play. Well, I suppose I did. I had this idea that because the media were not choosing to report the truth about what had happened to me, that I would take the truth to people, and that I would do that by writing with a friend of mine, another political activist, a one-woman show that I would then take out and practice a few times and then do it at the Labour Party conference in 2017. And the thing is, it's grown its eggs since then, and it's sort of mushroomed. So I'm now travelling all over the country and also getting bookings from abroad.
Look, without spoiling it, what's the gist of the play?
The play really is an explanation about what motivates somebody like me. So, yes, it's a one-woman show. I play 5 parts, including my mother and my father. And so we see really what happened to my parents involved as activists in the civil rights movement, and how their lives have influenced me as an activist. And really the question that is put is, how could somebody like me be called an anti-Semite, and what political gain might there be from calling somebody like me an anti-Semite?
Well, that's not a charge which is levelled lightly, generally. If someone's anti-Semitic, they're considered to be a Nazi, Jacqui.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking, isn't it? Actually, according to my solicitor, being called an anti-Semite, which is actually just being called a racist, according to the judges, is as bad as being accused of rape. So that's how bad it is. But the one thing I would correct you about is that I think accusations of being anti-Semitic are being done quite lightly these days, and for political reasons. And many of the people being accused of being anti-Semites, of being racist against Jews, against hating Jews, are actually not only themselves Jews, but are Jews who have been anti-racist all their lives. The one thing that joins these people is that they're all anti-Zionists.
So what's the difference between a Jew and a Zionist? I mean, surely they're both pretty much the same thing, the idea being behind the creation of the State of Israel.
You see, I find that quite shocking and quite insulting, because in fact most Zionists are Christians. Most Zionists are actually extremist Christians in America. And no, I don't equate Jews with the state of Israel or with the state of Zionism. I'm a member of 2-3 Jewish organizations, and my closest political comrades are Jewish. My partner is Jewish. None of those people are Zionists. It is not the same thing to be Jewish and a Zionist.
Can you just Can you just help sort out for us this whole thing of religion or race? When someone talks about somebody as Jewish, is it one or the other or both?
Well, you see, I think one of the problems is that these things are actually quite complicated. I would say that it's a religion that also has some ethnic and cultural parts to it. But for example, you know, if you look at some very well-known Jews, particularly, you know, historically very well-known Jews, they weren't practicing Jews at all. You know, we saying Einstein wasn't a Jew, or, you know, many of the other Jews that have never actually or either practiced or very soon dropped their Jewishness.
Well, you'll be telling me that the Israeli government aren't Jewish next.
I don't know. I wouldn't have an opinion on the Israeli government's Jewishness, because I'm actually not interested in people's ethnic identity in that way.
Can you explain what happened to you and what's, you know, your feelings about, and maybe what's the latest on it?
What happened to me was I was suspended in May 2016 initially for comments I made that I was accused of being an anti-Semite for. That was overturned within 4 weeks but at that point I became a sort of marked person. And then I asked some questions inside a closed session, Labour Party session, which was being run by the Jewish Labour movement. And I was again accused of being an anti-Semite and of bringing the Labour Party into disrepute and suspended. And I'm now being sent up to what's called the NCC, which is sort of the highest, if you like, the highest Labour Party tribunal or court. So that's where I am now.
Okay, so what are your views, and what's your thought on whether there's any kind of justice to this calling you anti-Semitic or not?
Oh, of course there's no justice. Of course there's no justice to it. How dare they call me an anti-Semite? An anti-Semite is somebody who hates Jews because they are Jewish. That is actually what an anti-Semite is. An anti-Semite is not somebody who, for example, challenges the status of the Israeli state, or challenges the Israeli state as a state set up for Jews and not for the people of its state. I mean, I wouldn't agree with a state that was a Muslim state or a Christian state. And it's not the same. People get this very confused. People think that we in England are a Christian state. We are not a Christian state in the same way that Israel is a Jewish state. There are all sorts of rules and regulations in Israel about who can get married to who. And those are actually entrenched within the Israeli state. And the bottom line is, we have in Israel a country that actually occupies the territories of another people. That is what it's doing.
Why is this issue in the news so much? Why do you think it's so important? You obviously do, because you're fighting this tooth and nail.
I think it's really important because I think the manipulation of charges of racism for political ends is an outrage. But also because I think the issue of Palestine and the Palestinians is one of the great causes of our time. And it's not just me who think that. Ask the people in South Africa who themselves underwent a huge battle against apartheid. Ask them what they think of what's going on in Israel. Ask Jewish Voices for Peace in America. Ask many of the human rights movements, Amnesty International, War on Want. The issue is in Israel we have a government. I mean, people say, why Israel? Why aren't you talking about, Saudi Arabia or everywhere else? By the way, I do talk about Saudi Arabia. But, our governments back Israel by billions, and by a hugely profitable arms trade. And that is to our shame. It's to our shame that we are involved in the oppression of a virtually defenseless people.
One of the things that's been happening recently is regular protests in Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel against Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the far-right leader.
Yeah.
And very little reporting in the British press, even though there's been almost wall-to-wall reporting of protests in Iran, which were actually, at least the ones in Tehran, were smaller than the ones in Israel. What do you put this down to? It doesn't really seem like we're getting equal dealing across the Middle East from the London media.
Well, no, there's partisan reporting, isn't there? There's definitely partisan reporting. I remember I had an interview once with the BBC, and she said to me, off the record, of course, she said to me, off the record, I have to tell you what happens, is if we report anything about Israel, and we do that in any kind of way, which is a negative, before that programme has finished, there will be hundreds of complaints, official complaints made against us. And so there's a barrage. You know, any media receive a barrage of criticism. All that has to be followed up. So I think in part there's that. And I also think it's just, you know, we are part of the American empire. The American empire has decided it's within their interest to back Israel and to condemn Iran. And we are party to that, and our media is also party to that.
Well, they're free to do that, aren't they?
Yes, they're free to do that, and we're free to point that out, or we should be free to have that pointed out without being accused of being racist.
Okay, Jacqui, could you just tell us, give us one reason why we should come along and see your play?
Because you really enjoy it. It's actually, I mean, you know, Alexei Sale, who wrote a review in The Observer, said he initially came because he thought it was a duty, and he ended up just saying it was his choice for theatre for the Sunday Observer because he enjoyed it so much.
And it's on at the Palestine Museum on Broad Street on Saturday the 3rd of February at 7:30. And amazingly, if you come a little bit early, there's some food too. I imagine from the region at 6 p.m. they're doing food.
That's right. That's it.
Anyway, how do people follow your case online or in the newspapers, Jacqui?
Well, they can have a look at my Facebook page, which is I've got a couple of Facebook pages. One is called just Jacqui Walker. The other one is called Jacqueline Walker. You know, and they are reasonably open. That makes it kind of difficult for me at times. But I'm pretty sure that when my case comes up in front of the Labour Party, as, for example, the Jewish Chronicle and the Board of Deputies have been sort of baying for me to be excluded from the Labour Party, I'm sure that it will be in newspapers and reported in the media.
Is there any kind of Jewish lobby in London that you would say is more balanced on Palestine and where you can get both sides?
Oh yeah, of course there is. You know, there's a Jewish Voice for Labour, for example. There's Free Speech on Israel, which is not a totally Jewish group, but has many Jews in it. There's Labour Against the Witch Hunt. These organisations are all organisations which are either significantly Jewish or in terms of Jewish Voice for Labour, they are actually totally Jewish. And then there's the Jewish socialist groups. There's Jews for Justice for Palestinians. There are many Jewish groups that see what's happening in Israel as something that needs to be challenged.
Now, this witch hunt, I mean, that's a fairly strong term to use. Would you see it as that as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, what a witch hunt means is that a series of smears are set up against people who are innocent and they are excluded and victimised. And that is certainly what's happened to me and a number of my comrades.
You're listening to dialectradio.co.uk, your local community radio run by volunteers. Log on to our website at dialectradio.co.uk to find out more.